Well, I know that the blues is something that you've been involved with for some time, and uh, and that more or less is the focus of what we're going to more or less look at
Hmm.
right through here. And I think when most people think of blues, it doesn't really have a it just it has a very limiting meaning for them. You know, maybe something that's down or sad or whatever, you know, southern or black or
Hmm.
whatever. And I'm sure there are certain things that are common about blues, but I've come to find out that the blues is very varied, and that's primarily what we're going to look at, the variation of
Hmm.
the blues styles and what areas in which they are varied. So I know that once before when we got together, we talked about the environmental differences of the blues, the regional differences uh, of the blues, and I thought that that would be good for us to look at today.
Hmm. Well, I mean, to first start off, you have to understand that you have unique situations in every state that, in every county, in every parish that black people were withheld in slavery. There was something different. There was both positives and negatives going on. Some people had slaves because that was the fashionable thing to do. Like, it used to be having a black housemaid. Now it tends to be toward having Latins as that's in that same position. Well, it's the truth. I mean, we got to talk about it the way it is because, after a while, the people who have maids and whatnot tire of that type of person and want something different. So therefore they go off into that bag. But because of that, different households treated black people in certain different types of ways. Some people were aware of a black man and woman's attributes and sought to enhance them with more information. Other people, found it a pesky nuisance, or a pesky nuisance, whatever way you want to say that, and tended to withhold opportunity. Some places, black musicians learned how to play the old reels, the Irish reels, and the Scottish reels, and the English and the Welsh ballads, and the French songs because they were great and adept musicians, perhaps not educated and could not read or write, but had full facility with the language and were able to perform much to the delight of many guests who visited plantations and farms and stuff like that. So, and then you have to consider the situation. If the women in the area are extremely religious, you will get a different type of music in general coming out of the men. I mean, because and this goes all the way up till today. In general, unless the man is of the cloth, it's usually the women that carry the religion through. They tend to be the ones that are home and are raising the kids and have that long time that they have to have something to deal with. Okay, so we're really jumping ahead centuries at this point. Sometimes within an and or an or, it's you jump from 1700 to 1941, so you have to be very careful. But what I'm trying to really get at here is that there is a variance of situations. The blues that we know about comes about basically through the recording industry, which, if you look at it in terms of musicians that you might know that you enjoy and like their work, but yet you don't hear them or can't find their record because it's a business. And this business, after recording all the things that it wanted to record, sent people like, let's see, what's this man's name there? That was involved with recording, recorded Leadbelly. Um, let's see,
I'm
it's
not
Lomax, yeah.
right, Lomax.
Colonel Lomax went out on the road, and several other retired people wanted service. And when there was some thought that there was going to be the last of what was left of American folk music that black people were making, now that they had recorders and have recorded, Edith Piaf and everybody else, it was finally given an opportunity to go down south and see if the true American folk music really existed that everybody was talking about all the time. And of course, it did exist. And it does today in a very strong way, but it's mostly localized. But your different areas, depending upon what type of work were done, was done. If you're doing a lot of field work and hauling pine and pitch, oftentimes these plantations were great proportions. For instance, the biggest blues plantation that exists in the South, uh, to my knowledge over the years of studying, was Will Dockery's plantation in Mississippi. Dockery was a young man. Young Dockery went to Harvard, came back down and bought a 40 square mile area. Now, you go 40 miles one way, make a right-hand turn, and go 40 miles the other way. You understand? 40 square miles. He turned it into an incredible lumber mill, cotton plantation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On any given day, there were 10,000 black people, men, women, and children on that plantation. Uh, Now you drive up to Will Dockery's plantation, and they're standing in the gazebo drinking champagne, listening to Gustav Mahler, and did not even know what was going on in their own yard. So Charlie Patton, Howlin' Wolf, Tommy McQuillan, Honey Boy Edwards, let's see, Son House, Robert Johnson, even Muddy, all of them came through there. Many of them lived there and worked there. And basically, the Dockers were pretty nice people. They would go and get their people out of jail, and because they didn't want no trouble downtown, supposed to leave them out there. And but the music, like say, you can move around the South. Your East Coast area is one of the most interesting things. Your East Coast, say for instance, your Carolinas, Georgia, Virginia, Florida, and just in Alabama, tend to be lighter sound. In other words, their sound is usually like a picking sound, like Reverend Gary Davis. Like, and they got kind of blues like that, runs like that. Hi, hi, baby, won't you tell me now? Hi, hi, honey, won't you tell me now? I've been working for you, mama, tell me, baby, I've been now. It's kind of a rolling picking sound. That's why it was really interesting when Mississippi John Hurt, in the middle of Mississippi, without any connection, came up with a similar sound. Now, I'm basically playing a kind of a Blind Blake. Blind Blake was from the west coast of Florida, on the St. Pete side. But the type of stuff that I'm talking about is the kind of lighter melody. Now, John Hurt was from Avalon, Mississippi in 1929 when it was taken up to Grafton, Wisconsin, recorded 4 or 5 sides, and nobody ever heard of him again until 61, 62. That's basically one of his tunes called My Creole Belle. Now, you take another person, in this case, a woman, 2 women. This next tune is a combination. The introduction is a woman's writing, and the song is written by a woman, which is real strange. I never really understood why people didn't like to. But me, music is, and it doesn't matter, And I've been playing this woman's music for probably about almost 30 years now. The First Lady, the introduction belongs to a woman named Mrs. Etta Baker, who is from the Virginias. She can be found on a series of records. I think they're either on Stinson or some kind of crazy label like that. An off label, but a good folk or blues market would have it. She learned from her father. She did some songs called One Thin Dime and Railroad Bill and Freight Train and all that. Not Freight Train, but Railroad Bill. And she was an interesting picker, real interesting picker. I don't know whether the woman was white or black. I just knew she could play real good. The other person that plays real good is Elizabeth Cotton in the guitar style. So combining these two ladies' styles, we get something like this. This is a tune called Freight Train. Now that example of music right there is more of a kind of the picking style. It's more country. It doesn't really have the hard edge of the blues. Yes, cotton was chopped in these areas and corn was pulled and fields were plowed, but the tendency for the music to be a little lighter and more reserved, will have a little different type of spring in it, and what I used to call when I was growing up playing the guitar as opposed to just raking or scraping on the strings, like just chording. Well, okay, that's all right for certain things, but then for actually playing the guitar, it was just, I heard something else there. But those styles you can easily find, as I say, in the Carolinas, and then eventually through radio and records and whatnot all over. In jukeboxes, you started hearing. That's what started moving and mixing the music up. But then the other states like Louisiana and Mississippi and Texas, to some extent Oklahoma, and then more sophisticated in and around Missouri and Kansas, and then Illinois, different places in Illinois, California after the war. You got different styles of the blues. Now the stuff that really affects the present day rock scene, those first different styles that I played, the picking styles, tend to more so affect the country and western music more than it affects directly on black music. Usually that type of picking, somehow, as soon as you start playing that stuff, young black people, because of their exposure, and even older generations, people who are 30 and 40, even 50, tend to associate it with the South or country or silly or low life or low class, or just not heavy enough to deal with the contemporary times. Where your blues itself I woke up this morning, feeling all around for my shoes. Even now you know about that I had them on. Walking blues, I woke up this morning, feeling all around for my shoes. Even now you know how that I had them old walking blues. Well, now they woke up this morning, the blues was on around my bed. Walked up in the kitchen, it was all in my breakfast spread. Now, whoa, into the kitchen on now, these blues was in my breakfast bread. That's almost a standard tuning version of Robert Johnson's Walking Blues, which is normally played in open tuning with a slide. But sometimes, like that, it can be easily played. Robert was a very talented musician that we still have not seen a picture of yet, after all these years and all these people that he's inspired. But the most fertile place, I think, for the present state of blues that we know, talking about, got my mojo working, satisfied and whatnot, comes out of a certain area. There's just that whole Delta region where everybody worked real hard. And there was incredible and extreme racial tension. And even that, and then there also was a lot of room for people to be excited. For instance, like, you had why a lot of musicians worked in those days was the situation with, like, for instance, if you had a big pine tar camp where everybody was cutting pitch and drawing trees out and whatnot, well, these men would be going way up there. So then on the weekends, they'd bring up a couple busload of women and some liquor and chicken and have a big barbecue out and bring the musicians up so that they could keep these cats working up in the camp, because they knew they weren't going to keep them up there for so long. But that's a good style of the Mississippi blues. Another favorite tune is this tune called "Dust My Broom." Getting up soon in the morning, believe I dust my broom. Getting up soon in the morning, believe I dust my broom. T-Bear skirt like that loving, my friends can't have my room. And that tune goes right along, and it moves right along. That's a basic boogie beat that you've probably heard off and on throughout blues and recognize it as a standard way of playing. And that again developed in the Delta. That's one of the real good styles of the music that's really carried itself over almost to the day. I mean, now they just pumped it up. Chuck Berry actually pumped the time up to when it was and Jimmy Reed was another person that added to that vocabulary and style of playing. But it seemed as though certain things became popular by record, et cetera, and then people, played them as they begin to develop shows and develop showmanship and entertaining in that particular style. That's how people eventually pull it together. But yeah, and then there's so many harder styles that are so obscure, but they're the underpinnings. Like for instance, the 2 or 3 note picking stuff. what I used to call a sweet man blues. Kind of really, it's usually a pretty nice person who really likes to, play something nice that the ladies would like, and that's a kind of an easier style that developed out of not the so-called hard sort of illiterate type of characters that sometimes just didn't have an opportunity, so their music sounded a lot like their psyche, rough, raw, and not too deep. Unfortunate for them and unfortunate for generations that passed after them, a lot of that music didn't get recorded. So, we're lucky to have some people around who know something about it. But that style came around for a good while. But no, those are the things that we normally recognize in the music. There are many more ways of doing things, and some of them are stranger than you can imagine. At one time, we just seem to be looking for most of the obscure stuff. But those kind of things really come around pretty good. Those styles, I mean, a lot of them, some of them had to do with the factors. Again, as I say, some people worked in the house and their jobs were, to wear a tuxedo and a cutaway and big dresses and tie your head up and be this and do that. And, I mean, it wasn't about just get up in the morning and eat, get something to eat and throw your overalls on and stand behind a mule all day. So people had different points of view, and the music developed out of the work that they did. And quite regularly, it's about the work that was done. I know we've gone into a long space on this, but
Okay, that was real interesting because when you were talking about some of the different techniques for playing, I had something which I mean was real good. I was thinking of something about letting people hear, which on a lot of levels you did, a distinction between Mississippi versus Kansas City in terms of the rhythm or the flow or.
well, a lot of times they don't change that much. It's like there's a basic inside track to the tune, but it's the arrangement. Like I mean, you can take the see like what I like to do. The interesting thing about the blues, first of all, is that the standardization of the music, which eventually led to rock and roll, which is like I said. Now that kind of stuff tends to be what most people are familiar with in terms of the form of the blues. But what I like to do, and what I found musicians doing, is that a lot of guys are really not very literate on the guitar, but they were wizards at making it sound like that sound. In other words, they would be actually staying one chord or two chords, but it would sound like they were playing three chords, like. And then they're like the gospel. That's the problem. I don't nobody know how my Jesus is. And a mix, that's a kind of a mixture of gospel and blues. But the difference between it is like this, Kansas City is more sophisticated, got horns, everybody's set up. That's the blues, but it's moving up the scale, slowly upward. Whereas the Mississippi blues is laying right in there, what it is. My woman, my mule, my house, my dog, my cat won't scratch. I mean? Always in those kind of really close kind of things, whereas the tendency for listening to Kansas City blues would be that you would hear the gut bucket blues, but then they would go and do something perhaps a little more stylish, a little more uptown. That was pleasing. That's why the Bobby Blue Band and Junior Parker and those type of people made their mark, because they sophisticated, which was known as the raw black blues, and to have horns, and then you can come out wearing your baddest three-piece, and Mama can wear what she wears, and y'all can walk in there and hear some music, and get moved. And since the church was a common experience with everybody, that's why it was so much intensity with the music.
Okay, well, why don't we just move a little bit and and talk about the African influences of the blues
Mm.
style. I remember reading somewhere once about the movie where you had talked about um, some similarities, or you could hear some similarities between the kora, for example, of West Africa, and the blues style of, let's say, that's in North Carolina.
Yeah, the
And
Carolinas
and so I
particular.
was, I don't think anybody, not too many people, have thought of that. I was
Well,
wondering if you could tell us in which ways a kora, which is what, a 21 string instrument,
yeah.
what kind of influence or effect it had on the style, let's say, in the East Coast of America.
Now that melody is like a Mandinka melody, which I call Kulan Jan. Kulan Jan is came from a long, 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 long time ago. Kulan Jan and Sutakum. Sutakum is a very interesting tune. But this tune here, now if you listen to it, it goes boom, da 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 dee da da da. Right now, all you have to do is alter a few notes, and it comes down to she often rocked her daddy all night long. You hear the what you call the measurement of the notes. That's ancient. That melody is ancient. And I kept listening to it, and I said, it sounds like a maybe a 1959 or 1961 fraternity party where everybody's singing some song that everybody gets fired up once the energy gets together. That's very interesting. But what I was going to demonstrate directly is this. Excuse me.
Hmm.
Bang bang. Is this particular tune, particularly the tunes that revolve around Mississippi John Hurt, Gary Davis, and Elizabeth Cotton. See, the chord goes like I got this tune called Queen Bee. See, this is what the chord goes. This is what's changing. And they can play these chords too. Now that's a basic more contemporary way of playing. Now the other tune that they play that is a tune called Spike Driver's Blues or Take This Hammer. Take this hammer and carry it to their captain. Tell me I'm gone. Tell me I'm gone. Tell me I'm gone. And those kind of pulses in there, those are a lot of the things that you pick up from the West African music. I mean, there's also the banjo and the mandolin got a kind of a crotchety old crackling sound. Real rough edge, kind of humorous. The banjo tends to be humorous at times. Um, though their instruments very similar to that, but the core music tends to be that long line stuff. I've played with two chorus, one or two chorus together. Played with the Contes, Alhaji by Conte and Dembo Conte. I've also played with Julian Yamasuso and his nephew, F. Musa Suso, who lives in Chicago now and is the leader for the Mandinka Griot Society. And we just, there's nothing we have to say when we start playing the music. I just play it out what it is, and they just are right there. And they know I'm hearing their improvisation, which is a lot of times when a musician's playing in unfamiliar territory. He doesn't know whether he's doing right until somebody tells him. Well, we don't ever have to go through that. It's really pretty direct and pretty exciting. And but tunes that have a lot of the similarities to it, a lot of this kind of talking. Another person who was real good at that was Furry Lewis. I love Furry Lewis because he could relax and make the guitar talk, which was a very big, important thing that ran. You see, because since the river, Mississippi ran around so many places, it connected into so many people, and the riverboats went up and down. The musicians played every night. The card sharks, gambled. The pianos rolled. And the saloon was open, and everything went crazy, and all kind of stuff went on. So you had a movement around like that, moving for people move from plantation to plantation, from town to town, parish to parish, from the north to the south, south for deeper south, south across the south. So that's some of the ways that the music got around. But the core is just the certain types of melodies that you hear. I mean, there's a direct difference. We are, if you're influenced totally by African history for thousands and millions of years, as opposed to being taken from your homeland and brought to the West Indies, broken, and then brought to the United States, and then can only express yourself unless it's in secular music. Well, you're gonna have a different sound. Especially when you're limited, you couldn't have no drums. Drums didn't really get in it. As long as it was a marching band, yeah, all right. If you were playing this or that, military music, all right, good. But no communication through the drums. So, it's taken people a long time for that shock to, really try to assemble the whole thing. That's why the big beat music that happened, drummers are real popular because if they can get that kind of primitive sound, so-called primitive sound going, then everybody gets excited. But
What were some of the other influences? We spoke of the choral a little bit. Were there other
instruments?
African or instrumental influences
Oh, yeah.
on the blues
Oh,
from
yeah.
Africa?
Well, not necessarily sometimes the instruments as much as it is the voice, the timbre, and that you will find ways of singing and ways of holding the instrument. Like, for instance, you'll see people holding their instruments in Africa with the same positions that somebody's holding a banjo on a porch in, I don't know, Bryan, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee. So there's those things, but the style, the voices, certain ways to hold you, certain masking. Now, that's one of the things that came through real strong in Mississippi, like Howlin' Wolf and Charlie Patton, Funny Papa Smith basically used a mask voice to get their point across. And that's, if you study many of the ceremonies where people are dressed up as demons, well, that demon has to have a spirit and develops a voice inside that get-up, to either scare people or elicit some sort of response out of them. And these same things are carried over in the blues. African retentions in the blues. All you have to really pay attention to. But then it gets sophisticated. It comes to the city. It comes in contact with, indoor toilets and, fresh sheets and, buying stuff at the market and driving your car around and picking the kids up at the babysitter. And it's pretty soon, that little funny wailing that goes on in the country doesn't really seem to carry it for you.
When you said Howlin' Wolf masked his voice, what did you what do you mean by that?
Well, he has a definite persona. Albert King does not mask his voice. He may use the value of a double entendre to evoke something that happened in people's minds to let them take it the way they want. Or Wolf does too, but Wolf, I say it's a point of masking. It's a their voices traveled through probably about 3 or 4 people that I know of. The Wolf voice, you know. And I mean, he was the one that made it most popular in terms of like having a popular international following to it. Patton does too, but Patton was way before Wolf, you know, and more raw and more, more, I don't know, not primitive, I won't say the word primitive, but just more raw. Just, I really was phenomenal, really excited by it, really raw, powerful stuff of the blues. And he had a resonant sound in that voice. It wasn't just a string, it was a resonant sound in the voice. Yeah,
Okay.
Wolf was amazing.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that we can? I mean, I know there's a lot
Oh, I
that we
mean,
could talk about,
on and on and on and on
huh?
about the lives of different people and
Yeah.
who they came in contact with and who likes the blues. I mean, Lightning Hopkins. Now, see what we didn't talk about Texas. Texas is an interesting situation in the blues. I mean, I hope you don't feel bad about this, but I think Texas is full of runaway slaves. I mean,
What
I'm
does that
serious.
mean?
I'm serious.
You had mentioned about the Texas people. What about the
Well, the Texas
let's see.
people picked up an awful lot of stuff out of the music because of the different strains that came through. For instance, East, you know, like Fish and Blues is a Texas song. That was written by Henry Thomas from East Texas. Honey, won't you allow me one more chance to get along with you is East Texas tune, written again by Henry Thomas. Going Up Country, Mama Do You Want to Go, which Canned Heat was so popularized during the 60s, is a Henry Thomas tune. So knowing all of these kind of things, I mean, and then you got, of course, Blind Lemon Jefferson, who played a lot in Texas. Lead Belly, who came over from Louisiana right next to Texas and hung out a lot together. Billy Bizer, Thunder Smith, you know, and that's how Lightning Hopkins got his name. He was part of a group called Thunder and Lightning. And then when they broke up, he just kept Lightning Hopkins because everybody remembered him from him. Mance Lipscomb was another good Texas bluesman. I mean, then you start getting into the contemporary generation of Freddie King and saxophone players, and you know, you get off into jazz before you know it. David Newman and them guys, you know, that played with Ray Charles's band, Hall Cooper, you know, they were all with, you know, the big college bands. See, that's what Ray used to do. Ray would go around. Every time Ray was in a town where they had a big college band going, Ray would go in there and hear him rehearse and say, "Who's that trumpet player?" You know, and then they find out who his name was and what's he doing. When he gonna graduate? Take him out of college and put him on the road. He would go out. I mean, he would, you know, come out maybe with a bachelor's degree in music and then graduate immediately into, you know, your postgraduate work, you know, on the road with Ray Charles. Because I mean, that's the stuff. You can learn all the notes and know how to play, be proficient on your instrument, but playing in those big ensembles and dealing with the road and all the psychology that goes along with that is pretty interesting. And you know, but Texas, I don't know. I just like the attitude of the people. Oh, I knew who else I was thinking from Texas. Juke Boy Bonner. Whew, what an incredible player. Harmonica player, guitar player. Real minimal guitar player, but a phenomenal singer and harp player. But the guitar was playing. I mean, I never bothered because it's so complete. I think who else there? Whistling Alex Moore, who was down there this year. Gatemouth Brown.
When you mentioned that the attitude was you like the attitude, does that come out into the music in such a way that's distinct
Oh,
from
yeah. Everybody else?
other people? How is that?
It's drier. The sound is a lot drier. Yeah, a lot drier, a lot rougher, much drier. Like Lightning's blues is when you hear it, it's like, I mean, there's so much intensity. You can tell that it's, you know, it's a person that's really living some life. You know, they had to put up with some things that they didn't really like. You know, whereas, yeah, it's lighter and it's more intense. It's real aggressive. Chicago blues is aggressive, but boy, Texas blues is aggressive and different. Listen to Freddie King. Woo! I mean, the stuff's almost about ready to go sharp. It's just peaking all the time, the instrument, you know. Where, like, Howlin' Wolf's got that intensity, but it's intended to be more of a flowing intensity as opposed to real jagged and real intense. Texas is really intense. Mississippi's intense too, but in a different kind of a more darker, dank way. Whereas Texas is intense, standing straight up and flat-footed, and real intense. Real. I mean, I like it. I like. I like. For the guitar players, I'm trying to think who else is getting. Oh, T-Bone Walker, for God's sakes. I mean, there you go with the whole thing. And then all your saxophone players, King Curtis, I start naming Billy Harper. I mean, you start going down the line, you go like, my God, well, where did all these people come from? But all out of there.
Okay, while we conclude with the blues section, do you think that we've covered some of the different styles of the blues fairly enough?
Oh yeah, we've covered the really country open-handed style. We've covered the closed, more sophisticated city styles, and we've hit some different high points. That would be. I think we're pretty good on it. You'll hear it in the back. I don't want to overplay the music part of it, just so that people will hear that sound, and then it'll carry. See how far it'll carry down when they're listening to what's being said. I mean, I will play a couple more pieces out that will really demonstrate, like Mississippi, which is like a kind of thing that Muddy Waters really says. Yeah, that's the whole kind of thing that Muddy made important more. It's kind of country, but I put a little different change in. It's like this run. Lightning had a lot to do with that. Lightning was really incredible. Playing 13 and a half bars instead of 12 bars, 14 or 15 bars, because he could change when he get ready. He would think it start all the way out. See, that's what the difference between the blues actually always following the same, following a specific pattern. Lightning would go outside the pattern. There was a lot of musicians that did that, drop time in different ways. But those are, some of the different E styles and the A styles and the C blues players and the D players and the G players, I mean, it's like, goddamn blues and I can't be satisfied. Baby, I got these blues, can't be satisfied. Then you get your ragtime players. I'm playing rag. All those different ragtime, rags, Scott dropping rolls, and all those kind of things. That's just sit around and play all of that stuff. It was just really phenomenal to sit down and make a guitar sound like a piano line.
Yeah, I remember talking to John Lee Hooker once, and he was talking about how he played something called in Spanish A or something like that.
Spanish,
Spanish
which
A.
is G,
Uh
and
huh.
C natural. C natural is the other one. C natural usually is G or D or Sevastopol. See, all Sevastopol, I said about the tunings. The tunings are either majors or minors. All right, it's either G tuning, G minor tuning, E minor tuning, D minor tuning, or G major, C major, A major. Yeah, and then they keep up F, G, all that kind of stuff up to the neck. But these tunings are your basic open tuning guitar tunings. They had names as opposed to notes. The Spanish tuning was the G tuning, which is this. So you take that real sweet sound and change it. I got 18 hammers, baby. Lord nine, Lord nine. Lord, I hit 'em ring. I got 18 hammers, baby. Lord, I hit 'em when it ring. Sometime late at night, mama, I sit just to hear my hammer ring. Baby, just to hear my, mama, just to hear my, sugar, just to hear my hammer ring. Some people's hammers are like silver, mine shine just like Klondike gold. Some people's hammers shine like silver, mine shine like gold. When I love gasoline on my body, got a mortgage on my soul. She got a lane on, yes, she got a lane on my body. Yes, she got a mortgage on my soul. I got 18 hammers, baby. Lord, now, Lord, now. Lord, I hear the ring. I got 18 hammers, baby. Lord, I hear them when the ring. Sometime late at night, mama, I sit just to hear my hammer ring. Baby, just to hear my, mama, just to hear my, mama, just to hear my hammer. Mm. Now that's your Spanish tuning, which you can play like tunes like. That's a tune called Spanish Fan Day.
So, are there major tunings, primary tunings that blues musicians use?
Most of our guitar musicians that play open.
Well, that was beautiful. That's part one of our program, and it's 1 minute after 1 o'clock. And I thought it's always fun to hear Taj Mahal. I think, in any case, he's always been willing to sort of come through and come by and give us a little bit of music and a little information and conversation. Really, sort of a high spirit. And I remember when we finally were able to get together, since he doesn't, live in the area anymore, and so he's not able to come up as much. And when he does, he's usually here for one night and sort of is rushing through. We were doing this like late night, and so we thought we were going to just maybe throw together a half-hour program, and 3 hours later, he was still talking and singing. So that sort of represents some of the main points of the conversation, main points of the topics. And some of the programming that you heard over the last hour or so represents material that is going to be played and given to other stations, but they're going to only hear a half hour of it. And so I guess you could say you heard some of the first takes, some of the first edits editing job done on that show.
They're
Watch
only
it.
going to hear 1/6, and we heard 1/3
Right,
of
right.
raw material.
Really, really. But I thought it was fun. He's